set. We're going to lay out interesting policies that we're going to take some time over and sort of, generate a proper response to Labour.
This one's caught my eye this morning. Kemi Badenoch not doing enough to win back the public. This is a Tory mayor in the Telegraph.
Yeah, I mean...
Do you agree?
Well, I think he's... no, I don't agree, but and I think, he's not exactly being a great team player, is he? I mean, if I was Kemi, I'd be having him straight down to Westminster.
Something rare just happened in the UK, and it left Keir Starmer exposed. When MP Kemi Badenoch questioned him in Parliament about the Ukraine family scheme, Starmer didn't defend the decision. He blamed the judge. It was a move he likely thought would go unnoticed, but it didn't. Baroness Sue Carr, the UK's top judge, hit back publicly. She said Starmer's comments were deeply troubling and crossed the line. Her response wasn't just unusual, it was historic.
I'm going to do what the Labour Party have done, which is all get into power with no idea, no plan as to how you're going to run the country.
And the way Freddie does...
For the first time, a sitting Prime Minister was openly rebuked by the head of the Judiciary, and it shook the political landscape. Something rare just happened in the UK, and it left Keir Starmer exposed. When MP Kemi Badenoch questioned him in Parliament about the Ukraine family scheme, Starmer didn't defend the decision. He blamed the judge. It was a move he likely thought would go unnoticed, but it... Baroness Sue Carr, the UK's top judge, hit back publicly. She said Starmer's comments were deeply troubling and crossed the line. Her response wasn't just unusual, it was historic.
I'm going to do what the Labour Party have done, which is all get into power with no idea, no plan as to how you're going to run the country.
And the way Freddie does...
For the first time, a sitting Prime Minister was openly rebuked by the head of the Judiciary, and it shook the political landscape. Keir Starmer built his entire reputation on the rule of law. A former director of public prosecutions, a human rights lawyer, and someone who wrote extensively about legal ethics, he was supposed to be the adult in the room during the chaos of Boris Johnson and Liz Truss. But that image is cracking. Instead of defending judicial independence, he attacked it. To appear tough on immigration, he blamed a judge for applying laws that Parliament itself had passed. It wasn't a legal argument, it was political theatre. This moment exposed Starmer's willingness to abandon the principles he once stood for simply to score points with the public. It showed a leader more concerned with optics than integrity, more interested in sounding strong than being fair.
He's asking Keir Starmer serious questions, and I watched last week's PMQs. He refuses to answer any question that she puts to him. I think he's incredibly patronising, and he's reading off, his sets. And some of the things he was saying last week, I think that one of the Tory MPs did a brilliant thread. He analysed about 20 or 25 porky pies from Keir Starmer in 25 minutes. He said that the interest rates were 11% under the Tories. Of course they weren't. He got totally muddled up with inflation. I mean, the guy's a joke.
And rumours swirling.
For someone who made a career out of defending the justice system, it was a deeply damaging move. The controversy centres on a single court case involving a Palestinian family. Their home in Gaza had been destroyed. They had relatives in the UK willing to support them. After a lengthy legal battle, a British judge ruled they had the right to join their family under human rights law. Parliament had already approved the legal protections used in the ruling, but when the case was raised in Parliament, Starmer didn't clarify or support the legal process. He distanced himself, and worse, criticised the judge. He framed the decision as a mistake, fueling the idea that the courts were letting people in unfairly. In doing so, he didn't just dodge responsibility, he fed into a narrative that cast the judiciary as part of the problem, a dangerous step for any Prime Minister to take. At the heart of this case is the Ukraine family scheme, a system set up to help those fleeing war. The Palestinian family applied through that scheme, not because they were pretending to be Ukrainian, but because the Home Office gave them no alternative. There was no separate form for families applying under human rights law. Lawyers and immigration experts have confirmed this repeatedly. The family followed the process exactly as laid out by the government. There was no fraud, no trickery, just a desperate family using the only legal route available to reach safety. But instead of explaining that, Starmer let the misleading narrative grow that this was an abuse of the system, and the judge got it wrong. That's what made Baroness Carr speak out, because when politicians twist the truth to win public approval, it's the courts and the most vulnerable who end up paying the price. Judges in the UK don't do politics. They don't give interviews, they don't defend themselves on social media. Their role is to interpret the law quietly, fairly, and independently. That's what made Baroness Carr's response so extraordinary. She didn't just release a polite statement. She condemned Starmer and Kemi Badenoch in clear, direct terms. She said their comments were unacceptable and dangerous, and accused them of violating their duty to respect judicial independence. This wasn't normal judicial pushback. It was the UK's top judge making it known that political leaders were putting the entire legal system at risk with careless rhetoric. Her words carried weight not just because of her title, but because judges almost never speak like this unless something has gone seriously wrong. Baroness Carr didn't stop at public criticism. She took formal action. She wrote directly to Keir Starmer. She contacted the Lord Chancellor. And in her annual press conference, she issued a rare and serious warning. Judges are now facing growing threats to their safety, and political attacks like Starmer's are part of the problem. According to her, this isn't just about one Prime Minister's poor judgment, it's about the dangerous consequences of turning judges into targets. When politicians undermine the courts, it gives the public permission to do the same, and the results are already being felt. Carr made it clear. These aren't just words in Parliament. This kind of rhetoric is putting real people at risk. While Starmer tries to score political points, real families are caught in the fallout. The Palestinian family at the centre of this case weren't manipulating the system. They were victims of war. Their home had been destroyed. Their children had narrowly survived, and they had relatives in Britain ready to offer support, shelter, and safety. The court ruling didn't open any floodgates. It didn't set a sweeping precedent. It clearly stated that this was a rare, exceptional case. But instead of explaining that, Starmer pushed a false narrative, that this was a threat to border control. He didn't mention the context. He didn't acknowledge the suffering. He just saw an opportunity to look tough. And he took it. The most frustrating part, Starmer knows better. He's a former human rights lawyer. He's spent years defending the legal system and criticising others, especially the Conservatives, for attacking it. He's spoken at length about the importance of judicial independence and the dangers of political interference. But when he had the chance to live up to those values, he didn't. He backed down. He threw the courts under the bus to protect his image. It exposed a troubling pattern, one where Starmer only supports the law when it aligns with his political goals. Baroness Carr's warning wasn't just about politics, it was about rising violence. She revealed that judges are now fearing for their safety. One was physically attacked with a radiator inside a courtroom. Others are receiving death threats, facing online abuse, and enduring constant harassment. This isn't just background noise, it's a growing crisis, and politicians like Starmer are adding fuel to the fire by making judges into scapegoats. They criticise legal decisions in public, knowing full well that judges can't respond. It's a one-sided attack, where those in power shout and those bound by ethics have to stay silent. Baroness Carr made it painfully clear, this kind of political rhetoric isn't just reckless, it's dangerous. She warned that public attacks on judges are spilling into real-world violence. Yet even after her statement, Starmer doubled down. He insisted that Parliament should set the rules on immigration and that courts shouldn't interfere. It's a slippery slope. This wasn't about one isolated ruling, it's part of a bigger pattern. Starmer's trying to reshape himself as a tough, no-nonsense centrist, but in doing so, he's adopting tactics that put democratic institutions at risk, attacking the courts, echoing hardline immigration rhetoric, and ignoring the real issues facing ordinary people. Behind the speeches and slogans, Starmer's priorities are becoming clear, and they're not with the people. While he talks about closing loopholes, he's silent on the crumbling state of housing, education, and healthcare. He's pushing to raise defence spending to 2.5% of GDP by 2027, yet can't find funding to fix NHS waiting times. The man who once promised decency and competence now seems more focused on image than action. He's quick to blame others, dodge accountability, and twist the narrative if it helps him look strong in the headlines. But it's not strength, it's spin, and voters are starting to see through it. I went out recently with a mic and camera to speak with people on the street, many of them pensioners. Some had voted Labour in the past, others hadn't. But one thing was clear, they were angry. They feel completely disconnected from this government. They see politicians living comfortably, enjoying perks, while ordinary people struggle. And when it comes to Starmer, the word they kept repeating was hypocrite. He's accepted more freebies than any other MP over the last 5 years. After everything he's said in Parliament and on television, people expected more. Instead, they feel betrayed, and the backlash is growing fast. You'd think they'd at least wait a year before showing this level of arrogance. But it's only been weeks, and they're already acting like they're untouchable. While the country grapples with real issues, Starmer and his government seem more interested in media spin than meaningful change. They're pushing for military budgets, tightening immigration policies, and selling strength. Yet basic public services are falling apart. It's not just tone deaf, it's shameless. And people are noticing. Starmer keeps repeating that he wants to fix the system, but his actions say otherwise. He talks about cracking down on loopholes, but ignores the broken housing market. He promises reform, but leaves the NHS overwhelmed and schools underfunded. And while he's eager to ramp up military spending, he can't seem to find solutions for the everyday struggles people face. The truth is, Starmer has become obsessed with managing his public image. Every move feels calculated to impress headlines or calm critics, not to bring real change. And when legal decisions get in the way of that image, he's willing to toss legal norms aside. This isn't leadership, it's performance. The judiciary isn't just another branch of government, it's the last line of defense between citizens and unchecked power. When a prime minister attacks judges for doing their job, it doesn't just damage one case, it erodes trust in the entire legal system. It tells the public that court rulings can be dismissed, judges can be blamed, and laws can be changed at will if they become inconvenient. That's not how a democracy works. Starmer's criticism wasn't about policy, it was about control. And by trying to discredit a fair legal ruling, he showed he's willing to weaken the system that holds leaders accountable. If Starmer gets away with this, it sets a dangerous precedent. Imagine a future where any prime minister who loses a case can simply dismiss the judge as wrong. Imagine a government rewriting laws every time a court decision doesn't go their way. That's not democracy. That's rule by force. Starmer has already shown he's willing to move in that direction. And if no one pushes back, if the public, Parliament, and the press stay silent, it won't stop with this one case. This is how judicial independence dies, not with a single law, but with repeated attacks disguised as strong leadership. That's why Baroness Sue Carr stepped in, not just to defend one judge, but to protect the integrity of the entire legal system. She made it clear that this wasn't about politics, it was about principle. When the most senior judge in the UK publicly tells a Prime Minister to back off, it means the threat is real. Starmer wasn't just criticised, he was exposed. The image he carefully built as a principled legal expert collapsed the moment it clashed with political convenience. He chose fear over facts, headlines over honesty, and power over principle. Baroness Carr reminded the nation of something crucial. The judiciary isn't the enemy, it's the safeguard that keeps democracy honest. If Starmer can't respect the role of the courts, he has no business being Prime Minister. This isn't about one bad call, it's about the path he's choosing. A path where institutions are treated as obstacles, not protections. A path where legal rulings are labelled wrong just because they don't suit his agenda. The real question now isn't if Starmer will keep pushing this dangerous line, he already is. It doesn't just damage one case, it erodes trust in the entire legal system. It tells the public that court rulings can be dismissed, judges can be blamed, and laws can be changed at will if they become inconvenient. That's not how a democracy works. Imagine a government rewriting laws every time a court decision doesn't go their way. The question is, will the public, the media, and Parliament step in before the damage becomes irreversible? Because if the most powerful judge in the country can be attacked for doing her job, then none of us, not citizens, not courts, not democracy itself, is truly safe. What do you think? Was Starmer right to criticise the court, or was Baroness Carr right to defend it? Tell us in the comments. And if you want more coverage on how politics is reshaping Britain, like this video, share it and hit subscribe.